A very Merry Christmas week. Blessed time for you, hopefully. Happy holidays as well to you and your family. So, a few things to talk about is that you're going to see these headlines, of course, of wow, one of the warmest Christmas weeks on record across the United States. And while that's generally true for our area, and especially as you get more northeast in our area, not exactly the case, if not even far from it, with pretty wintry weather at times. We are going to talk about some snow systems this week. We're going to talk about a few blasts of at least cold air, and then kind of go more into the pattern as we go into the longer term and some of the definite trends that we're seeing. But for right now, it's kind of similar to a ridge runner pattern that you would see in August, where you have this big, massive heat ridge, but along the periphery of it, you have storms. You have much cooler weather. And that's what we're going to be seeing throughout the course of this week. I think the other big thing to address is my crazy getup, because obviously this is definitely how you wear a tie. But wanted to mix and match some Christmas stuff in there. Don't worry, not opening any fashion house in New York City anytime soon. So overall pattern, let's get to that. And what we're going to be seeing is a few different maps here to showcase that we have this big old ridge of high pressure and that batch of moisture that's going to kind of run the side of it. So coming out of maybe Minnesota, Michigan, in towards New York, in towards New England. And you're seeing this multiple different times as we push this forward with multiple different types of maps. So right now, temperatures are significantly different from where they were yesterday across the middle portion of the country, but across our area, anywhere from pretty similar to about 5-10 degrees warmer. But this is where it's significantly different. I mean, this is really the start of the very, very warm week pattern. So locally, temperatures vary between the 30s and 40s for the most part, with a little bit of a wintry mix system coming through that isn't going to do too much. Producing some localized coatings at absolute best, but it's just a little bit too marginal temperature-wise for much of this to really stick and add up, even on grass. Certainly really not a big pavement risk until you get into colder air at night. Temperatures are going to be pretty warm across the middle portion of the country into the Rockies, and then spreading into the Midwest as we go throughout the next couple days. But notice it just doesn't warm up a lot from Minneapolis to, let's say, Chicago to New York. Yes, St. Louis. Yes, Nebraska. Yes, Tennessee. How about mid to upper 70s near 80 degrees in Memphis? Sure. But 27 in Montreal. Okay, that's not warm any time of the year. How about -5 in Montreal? How about 28 in New York? This is now going in towards Sunday, and we're talking about some colder weather pushing on in across the country as a whole. And this is going to be a brief moderated Arctic blast that's going to try to move through Midwest Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast, and certainly keep those temperatures much cooler with this trough for the early portions of next week, and that's going to spark off lake effect snow in the wake of a system. But here we go through the nighttime hours, overnight hours. There you go, sliding on in, bringing some of that snow, and could even be some moderate to briefly heavy snow as we go on in towards the morning hours tomorrow, in towards much of New York State, in towards far northwestern New Jersey. There will be accumulation even in towards central New Jersey there, into Connecticut. That moves on out. Drier air comes on in, but it's still snowing a little bit in Albany as we go through tomorrow evening, and that will slide a little bit off towards the north and east. But you notice that there's going to be enough moisture around in towards Syracuse and towards Albany at least a little bit, and then that system will pull out of Boston and Maine. High pressure tries to move back in, dries things out for Wednesday. That's your Christmas Eve day. And we'll see just a little brief little tiny clipper. It's not going to do much. I wanted to go west because that's really where a ton of moisture is. Major snow for the Sierra Nevadas, and some pretty heavy rain into those low-lying areas as that shifts off towards the east. It's going to come in with a system, a clipper, and it's going to kind of enhance that clipper. And we're going to get frontal boundary. And that front is going to kind of squeeze things out. So while this is going to move pretty fast, there could be a decent little brief chunk of snow with it where this sets up on Friday into Saturday. Notice it's going to be kind of a couple systems coming together, but this does slide in towards Pennsylvania, into New Jersey, and maybe even in towards portions of Maryland, Northern Virginia. We'll have to watch for a little mix there. But it could definitely be cold enough to see snow far enough south there, with a little mix back maybe into Ohio and into Pennsylvania. And then that system kind of reinvigorates itself as we go on in through Saturday. And that could be an additional round of snow in upstate New York with a little mix on the backside. And then through New England it goes with more snow. We'll have to keep an eye on the timing. Models do differ, as I kind of showed you a little bit of those two different models on the exact timing there. But then we'll have lake effect snow showers most likely on the backside through Monday with much colder air. So the first system now going through Wednesday, you could see a lot of spots seeing a ½ inch to 1-2 inches or so of snow. And this certainly includes portions of northwestern Jersey area, much of upstate New York, especially west of the Hudson Valley. But hey, why not an inch or two maybe in portions of the Albany area? We'll keep an eye on that. Syracuse area, a little bit more, a few inches of snow, and then certainly decent snow once you get further up into New England. As we push this out a little bit further, you can see through Friday, those amounts are going to be pretty much the same. Probably not dealing with any kind of lake effect throughout the rest of this week. But as we go through the Monday period, we'll add a little bit of lake effect, and then with that secondary system, look at some of those totals. Maybe even a few inches of snow in New Jersey, maybe New York City getting in on a few inches. Upstate New York, though, could see several inches of snow depending on how things line up there as we go Friday through the weekend. So certainly a lot more of a wintry potential. And then if things dry out a lot more than where we've been across the east, even across the west, it's not going to be as moist. Desert Southwest, that will be some needed rain. Temperatures, we talked about it. It's super duper warm across the Rockies through the plains, but definitely a barrier between like Chicago, Minneapolis, DC, and it's actually cool through next week for the most part into New England. And when we talk about cool, let me go over here. When we talk about cool, I want you to pay attention to this line. It goes down pretty decent, and this is the Arctic Oscillation. And the NAO is kind of similar, the North Atlantic Oscillation. These are blocking patterns that promote cold typically across the eastern United States. And as we go through early January, we're going to get into a much colder pattern in those conditions. And let me change out this webcam here. Sorry about that. And one more thing to show is the MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation. It gets stuck around here. This is what happened when we had that 3-week cold stretch from late November through mid-December. Yeah, I think that goes right back into it as we go past the 5th or so of January. I think mid-January is, for the most part, going to be very cold across our area. The further west you go, the further warm it's going to be. But yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking as of right now with some of these pictures going more into the long term. So thanks so much. Appreciate you watching. And feel free to ask any kind of questions. We definitely appreciate it. Have a good one.